everyone. So let me first say that I'm very happy to be here in Israel. Thank you very much, Yesha, for having organized this meeting here. So I'm very happy to be here. So this morning I will try to talk about my own personal vision of virtual worlds as a global infrastructure, mainly for enabling multilingual social interaction. Okay? So my name is Samuel Cruz-Lara. I'm from Inrea, Loria, at the University of Lorraine. That's a little bit messy. Okay, so let's say that here I am representing Inrea. Okay, so that's the outline of my talk. I will begin first by defining what a virtual world is, very, very quickly. Next, I will introduce social interactions in virtual worlds. I will talk about our vision of social interactions and why using virtual worlds in this framework is interesting, is innovative. Next, I will talk about my personal research, that's linguistic information. I belong to a team in Inrea whose main research domain is automatic language processing. So I will talk about linguistic information, multilinguality, which is a key issue for us in the Metaverse One project. And of course, I will present all this in the context of virtual worlds. Next, also very important for us, I will talk about standardization, because in the framework of multilinguality, that's also a key issue for us. And next, I will conclude. So I have too many slides, so Yesha, please tell me if I have to stop, okay? So let's begin by defining virtual worlds. So as usual, I have used Wikipedia, so you have there a rather general definition about what a virtual world is. And this sentence completes the preceding definition. So let me read a little bit this part of the definition. Virtual worlds are intended for its users to inhabit and interact, and the term today has become largely synonymous with interactive 3D virtual environments where the users take the form of avatars visible to others graphically. Okay, so that's the general, very general definition of virtual worlds. Well, when I began to work with virtual worlds, I didn't know Yesha yet, so I remember that I read a very, very interesting paper of Jack Balkin, which is she's professor at the University of Yale, and the name of his document was Virtual Liberty, Freedom to Design and Freedom to Play in Virtual Worlds. That's a paper that has been written in 2004. So Jack Balkin says what he says. In the future, virtual worlds platforms will be adopted for commerce, for education, for professional, military, and vocational training, for medical consultation and psychotherapy, and even for social and economic experimentation to test how social norms develop. Although most virtual worlds today, at that time he talked in 2004, are currently an outgrowth of the gaming industry, they will become much more than that in time. So I would want to say future is now. So you have there several virtual worlds who you can access relatively easily. Of course, I haven't presented all of them because I do not have enough space on this slide, but I just want to say that nowadays we really have a lot of virtual worlds. In the framework of the Metaverse project, we have mainly experimented our stuff with the Second Life and with Solipsys. Okay. So what's our vision, our own personal vision about virtual worlds? Well, virtual worlds may not only allow to set up online communities. That's rather classical, let's say. Virtual worlds may not only intend its users to inhabit and interact. What we would like is that real virtual worlds become true development platforms, allowing creators to improve the user's immersive 2D, 3D experience. So a virtual world for us is very, very important. It's a true development platform. Next, virtual worlds must also be considered as a new way to communicate and to access information on the internet. That also is a very important point of our research activities. Next, Jesha and Jean has talked about that. That's also very important for us, inclusion. Virtual worlds must encompass activities related to the achievement of an inclusive global information society. Inclusion, that means to share a global information structure, including minorities. Okay, so that's very, very important. And of course, Jesha talked about this a few minutes ago, 3D3CWorlds, community, creation, and commerce. Okay, so a virtual world is much more than only visit an island or whatever by using an avatar. A virtual world, it's a global platform allowing us to create, to communicate, and of course, to make business. Okay. Well, let me show you a diagram that we use very, very frequently in order to explain in a rather general manner what's our vision of classical web on the one hand and the virtual worlds on the other hand. So here you have a diagram showing what's a classical web model. So you have the web server, you have web pages that you access by using a navigator and a browser, and each user has his own computer. On the other hand, we have virtual worlds. And as you can say, the way we access information is not exactly the same. One very important point, in our opinion, about virtual worlds is that when you are represented by an avatar, you have the possibility to interact with all other people who is maybe accessing the same information with you, okay? Maybe you will tell me that this kind of interaction, I'm talking about the right part of the diagram, is being implemented also by social networks as Facebook and so on. I have to say, okay, that's right. Anyway, a virtual world adds some interesting interactivity that you cannot find in general in social networks. So I will try to explain our vision on this. Okay, so the second part of my talk, it's related to social interactions in virtual worlds. So that's what we are experimenting now in our team. Okay. So first, what's the objective of social interactions? Well, you have here a definition. The objective to be reached is to offer simple, effective means of communicate by using natural, intuitive communication. And beyond this, to exploit the possibilities of virtual worlds, to innovate and eliminate the barriers, such as linguistic barriers. I will talk about the linguistic in the last part of my talk, which exist in the real world. Development efforts are required in two equally important directions. The first one is the technical side. Jean talked with us about MPEG-V, that's the technical side. But I think that we also have to take into account the socio-cognitive side, which will increase the quality of exchange between avatars. Gestures, speech, direction of gaze, postures of facial expression, as Joshua says frequently, blah, 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 all contributed to a richer construction of the social links between individuals evolving in virtual worlds. That's a very important point. The fact that communication is situated in a virtual environment or that is carried out through an interposed computer program influences significantly the behavior of users. That's very important. The way we communicate with people in a virtual world is not at all the same that we use when we communicate with people in a real world. So that change. I mean that using virtual worlds, for example, for language learning, I will talk about in a few minutes, may be very interesting because people do not communicate with each other as in the real world. For example, when you are beginning to learn a foreign language, maybe you are not so comfortable, maybe you feel that your pronunciation is not so good. When you learn a foreign language in a virtual world, well, you do not really bother with pronunciation because you are represented by an avatar. You are not facing face-to-face other people. So that may be improve the way you learn. Okay. Next. So research in sociology has highlighted a phenomenon that they call disinhibition, which may lead to greater sociability, but conversely also to impulsiveness or even risk-taking. Users tend to reveal more of themselves, in particular by giving away personal information on the web, and that's also, of course, true in virtual worlds. So, in face-to-face communication, we usually tend to adjust our behavior to the prevailing social norms. So we know through our education and our culture what is socially acceptable or not. When we communicate in real world with each other, we are aware frequently, unconsciously, about gestures, about the way we have to behave. That's very frequent when we visit a foreign country. We do not know always how do we have to behave. So unconsciously we see the gestures, the way people behave, and we try to do the same. In the communicating by using machines change this considerably because, well, we do not behave in the same way. As indicated here, when we communicate by using machines, all of this is reduced in a very significant way. Well, so some authors note that the virtual worlds do not allow users to establish real interpersonal relationships with other users. There are a lot of authors who think this way, but on the other hand, there are other authors which consider that it should be possible to communicate with people by using virtual worlds as if we were into a face-to-face context. Well, who is right, who is not right? We are trying to set up, to build up platforms that will allow us to experiment, and next we will evaluate, and we will decide who is right, who is not right. Okay. So let me tell you very, very quickly about our project. We are working in this project. The name of this project is Allegro. So you have there the URL on the internet if you want to know a little bit more on this project. The Interact project Allegro focuses on the development of new technologies for foreign language learning. I have talked about this issue a few minutes ago. And our aim, that's very important, our aim is to make computer-based foreign language learning more interactive, more engaging, and more fun. That's very, very important. What we are trying to do is to use virtual worlds in order to build up an environment who facilitates foreign language learning. Using a virtual world, it's more or less like a serious gaming, okay? So disinhibition of people allows to improve the way they learn. if people consider that the environment they are using is fun, it's beautiful, it's a leisure stuff, well, what we think is that people will improve the way they learn a foreign language. Okay, so one of the prototypes that we have implemented in the framework of the Metaverse project, the linguistic chat, will certainly be used inside this project. Which is very important in this project is that we have to build up platforms and that we have to evaluate these platforms. Okay, so we'll have students who will work with us, and very, very important, we are working with English teachers, okay, because, well, this project is with Germany, okay, so we are focusing on French and German, but also in English, okay, and for the very first time, at least on my side, for the very first time, we are working with English teachers because they are professionals for foreign language learning, okay. My feeling is that using virtual worlds, serious gaming stuff, should improve the way people learns a foreign language, but that's my feeling. We have to validate this. That's why we are working with English teachers. Okay. Well, the first part of my talk was virtual worlds. The second one, the social interaction, and this is the third one, linguistic information, multilinguality, and virtual worlds. That will be easier, I hope, for me to go further in this part of the of my talk because it's my own research domain. Okay. Yeah, that will be easier for me. I hope so. Okay. So what we are exploring? Well, first we have worked on what I call the classical web-based paradigms, localization, automatic translation. I will present you the definition of this. And now, especially in the framework of the Metaverse One project, we have developed a new virtual worlds-oriented paradigms that I call non-intrusive and dynamic language-based scenarios. So first, very quickly, that's the definition, the official definition of localization. So that's the possibility to have a user interface in French and then having the same interface in English or in German or whatever. That's localization. That's classical on the web environment today. Next, we have automatic translation. I think that all of you have used Google Translate, for example, okay? So that's automatic translation is a translation produced by the state-of-the-art technology without the intervention of human translators. Well, that is not really true for Google. And automatic translation is also often referred to as machine translation. Next, we have what I call non-intrusive and dynamic language-oriented scenarios. So we refer to these scenarios as non-intrusive because they do not interrupt the user activities within the immersive 3D environment, but enrich his/her individual experience. Obviously, these scenarios are called to be dynamic because user interaction occurs mostly in real-time situations. In the context of virtual worlds, dealing with multilinguality is not only localization and real-time automatic translation. So that's our feeling about why using a virtual world is a new way to deal with multilingual stuff. So we have developed three different scenarios. The first one, I presented this scenario in Tenerife. So we are able to direct a robot by using natural language. The second one that I will present in a more detailed manner here this morning is a scenario that we call the Language Academy. And the third one that we have recently implemented is emotion detection, okay? So let me present you the context of what we call the Language Academy. Most of my colleagues of Metaverse have seen this for five 5 or maybe 6 times. So forgive me. So let me present our colleagues from Israel this morning what I understand by language academy. So the context is the following. Pierre is a French student who recently moved to the Netherlands, and he has solid knowledge of English, and he has started to learn Dutch. Okay, that's the context. In the beginning, while his Dutch was still very basic, he watched movies using English or French subtitles. Okay, so that's, once again, the context. His multimedia player with multilingual support enables him to pause the playback and hear again, or see the Dutch spelling or some phrases on screen or his handheld device. Okay, that's rather classical. Next. His player do this by extracting phrases from Dutch subtitles, or his Dutch subtitles are not available by using some of the online translation services. And Pierre can also get more information about Dutch culture for selected concepts that his system gets from services such as Wikipedia. Okay, so that's rather classical, that's rather, well, let me call that normal. Okay, that's what we can do today if we want to improve our knowledge on a foreign language. What may be more innovative is the following. In order to further improve his Dutch learning process, Pierre thought that it would be a good idea to use an immersive 3D environment in order to meet and to interactively discuss with Dutch people. So you see that the very first important thing about virtual worlds is that we can interact with other people. So Pierre's Dutch is still not good enough to understand everything. So from time to time, he needs translation or complementary explanation of some words appearing on the local chat of his user interface. So the general idea is that Pierre should be able to click on any word appearing on the local chat. A click on a word may produce, for example, an automatic real-time translation, or by consulting some external databases, a list of synonyms or any kind of complementary definition. Let me interrupt my talk just a few seconds in order to show you a very quick video. Okay, so that's a 1-minute video. So that's in solipsis. So here you have the chat window. That's the preference window for the chat. So here we haven't activated the linguistic chat. So you say, hello, how are you on the chat? Nothing happens. Next, you activate the linguistic chat, and you choose, for example, to have verbs in pink. Okay? You can have nouns in yellow and so on. And when you say, hello, how are you, you can see here verbs in red. And in addition, you can click on any word in order to retrieve the definition, the list of synonyms, and any translation. And this, of course, is non-intrusive. You can click on a word if you want. If you don't want to click, you can continue to talk with other people, okay? So the general idea is that we offer users the possibility to click on a word, once again, in order to retrieve some additional information that they should be able to exploit later, okay? That's what we call the linguistic chat. We have implemented this prototype in the framework of the Metaverse One project in solipsis, as you have seen, but also in Second Life. Okay, so let me come back to my talk. Okay? So, as I have said, obviously the immersive 3D environment also memorizes selected phrases, so Pierre can later see the list of problematic phrases and practice them again. Okay? Well, this scenario, as I have said, has been implemented on Second Life and solipsis, and we are implementing it now in OpenSim. Well, this is it's not really, it's a little bit darker, but that's exactly the same in Second Life. What we have done in Second Life is to add an additional element here. That's the general menu of the Second Life viewer. So we have modified the viewer in order to introduce our linguistic chat. Of course, if people are interested in the linguistic chat, they have to use the viewer we have modified. Very, very quickly, the third scenario, that's emotion detection. Why virtual worlds may be interesting for emotion detection? Well, because we have implemented this in Solipsys. Well, that should be interesting to see the emotion an avatar can, how can I say that? Well, the general idea is the following. We are using the chat once again. We are only working with textual information. So the general idea is that we write a sentence on the chat. We analyze the sentence syntactically and semantically, and we infer an emotion. That's very, very basic, okay? That's begin to work. Is not yet completely finished, but the general idea is to write a sentence and see the emotion on the face of the avatar, okay? So that's neutral, that's joy, sadness, anger, fear, disgust, and finally surprise, okay? So we are actually working with 7 emotions. That's the very elementary emotions that sociologists and psychologists has defined, okay? As you may say, that's for my colleagues from Metaverse, when you use a bear, that's much more easier than when you use an elephant, okay? Because with the elephant, that was not so easy. If we use a bear, that's more interesting. And let me arrive to the very, very last part of my talk, standardization. It's a very, very important thing for us. So, an important point. Obviously, the immersive 3D environment also memorizes selected phrases, so Pierre can later see the list of problematic phrases and practice them again. I talk about that. But is it so obvious? How to represent multilingual information? What levels of linguistic granularity must be taken into account? Do we have to work at the sentence level, at the word level, or even at the syllable level? How multilingual information may be related to multimedia? Subtitles, synchronization, timing, and so on. And how to ensure interoperability between different multilingual formats? Okay? That's why it's not so obvious to deal with multilinguality. And that's why we have begun to work on a format that we have called MLIF. Let me go to MLIF very, very quickly. Okay, that's not so important. Okay. And this work has been done in the framework of the International Organization for Standardization, ISO. And we have been working with within the TC37SE4, so that's for linguistic stuff. And inside all of this, there is a project whose name is MLIF, Multilingual Information Framework. We have reached the status of final draft international standards about 2 months ago. And if everything goes well, that will be an international standard in about 2 or 3 months, okay? We have been working on this for more than 4 years now. It's a very time-consuming task because when you work for ISO, and I think that Jean knows also how does it means, you have to discuss with a lot of people for everywhere in the world. You have to deal with ballot process, and it's very, very complicated. But we think that is the price we have to pay to build international standards. Why to use international standards? For example, for interoperability. We want that the format we have defined in part in the framework of the Metaverse One project be used elsewhere. For example, we have been working in another ITA2 project whose name is SEM by SEM. That's a project whose main objective was to deal with semantic information about the way very, very big systems work with. Within this project, we have also used MLIF. So we have used SEM by SEM as a use case, Metaverse 1 as a use case, and that's exactly the same that for MPEG-V. We have built this standard by working on several use cases. Okay? So I'm the project leader of MLIF, and as I have said, we hope that in about 2 or 3 months that will be finished. Okay? So, well, that's blah, blah, blah. So you have a generic platform for dealing with multilinguality and so on. Let me show you very quickly what MLIF is. As you will see, it's is less sexy than MPEG-V. Okay? MPEG-V is rather sexy. MLIF is nothing but XML. Okay, so that's textual information. So here you
sexy in its own way.
Yeah. So here you have a sentence in German, here you have the same in English, and here you have the same in Spanish. So that's multilinguality. Here you have an example that that should be easy for you to tell me what we are dealing with in this example. With subtitles, with captions, captions that we associate with a video, for example. And as you can see here, we work at the sentence label. I feel it in the water, that's, of course, the Lord of the Rings. And we say that this sentence should be presented between this timer and this timer. Which is interesting if we use MLIF, is that we can also work at the word label. Because for several reasons, it should be interesting for some people to deal with captions at the word label and not only at the sentence label. So we can do this by using MLIF. And of course, we can also work at the syllable label if we are working in a context of karaoke, for example. Karaoke actually is not that easy as it may seem, and we have been using our format in karaoke context, and that works. Okay? So important remarks, the Metaverse 1 framework will define the need for dealing with multilingual textual information, but it will not choose any specific standard. That's very important. So that's the same context as OpenGL or DirectX, for example. We have proposed to use MLIF in the framework of Metaverse 1, but we can use any other multilingual format. Okay? So that's the very, very last part of my talk. Maybe you are wondering about, well, how they have used MLIF in Metaverse. This is a very, well, not complicated, but it's, well, an important diagram for us that shows that all information flow relative related to multilingual information inside our prototypes, that's the linguistic chatter, is encoded. Well, it's not so obvious, but we use MLIF here, we use MLIF here, we use MLIF here. All information flows inside our platform, linguistic chat, has been encoded by using MLIF. So that's the way we are using MLIF in the project. Okay? So a conclusion very quickly. So let me talk about the Metaverse Roadmap report that's a little bit old now, 2007. Virtual worlds may become primary tools with video and text secondary. And let me say that for me, text, of course, is not secondary at all. For me, working with text is as sexy as working with video, audio, images, and so on. Okay? Anyway, for learning many aspects of history, for acquiring new skills, for job assessment, etc., etc., etc. Okay? In the context of virtual worlds, as I have tried to show you, dealing with multilinguality is not only localization and real-time automatic translation. We can innovate. We can propose new ways to work with multilingual information. And I have shown some non-intrusive and dynamic language-based application associated to immersive 3D environments.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.